Jamie Chadwell's squad has been the topic of conversation really around college football, not even just in the Sun Belt. And when you look at what they've been able to do the last couple of years, it's easy to see why people want to talk about them. You have an intriguing offense that has led to multiple double-digit win seasons over the last couple of years, and they're looking to make it three in a row. And I think they have the talent to do that. And some of these guys in the top 10 are going to be very, very impactful in that quest. But I think that they're also important because they're capable of being leaders and getting guys around them to play even better, to create depth and make this team better and more well-rounded. Obviously, everything starts with Greyson McCaleb. The third-year quarterback has been really a magician with the football. He's been elite, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football, not just a group of five, not in the Sun Belt. Again, he is someone that really made this team what it is. When you look at what he's done over the last 2 years, really the big thing is limiting his turnovers. Only 6 interceptions over the last 2 seasons has been a big one, and his completion percentage is up there with some of the best. And I think he's going to do it again this year. He's also a dual threat, so he maybe doesn't have the best rushing statistics of a dual threat quarterback, but he is more than capable of running the football. He runs the triple option of that offense really, really well. And Jamie Chadwell asked him to do quite a few things, and he's more than capable of doing it. And I think that you look at what they have returning on offense, obviously they have to figure out something at wide receiver and tight end. But I think that they have the quarterback in place, and sometimes that's more important than what you have at receiver. A guy that I'm really high on, and I think he's going to have a breakout season, is Brayden Bennett, the running back. As a freshman last year, averaged 8.6 yards per carry, 12.3 yards per catch, 9 total touchdowns, and nearly 1,000 yards. Now that it's not a three-headed monster, it's more of a two-headed attack at running back. I think that he's going to benefit the most from it. I think his skill set is the best in this offense in terms of who's running the football or catching the ball. You can put him out wide. You run that unique triple option attack, and I think him and Greyson McCaleb are one of the best 1-2 punches in all of college football, and you're going to see that again in 2022. Josiah Stewart, I don't think anybody really talked about him. This is a Coastal Carolina defense that was super deep and super talented, and no one really talked about Stewart. This is a guy who led the team in both tackles for loss with 16 and sacks with 13. And I don't think we really discussed him that much because you were looking at some of the veterans that were on this team that were really carrying the team and creating that depth. But a guy like Josiah Stewart, who was a freshman last year, is going to have to prove that he can replicate that success because teams are going to focus on him, and that's a challenge that he has to be willing to take head on. Willie Lampkin is an all Sun Belt type talent, and this year he gets the challenge of trying to be a center instead of a guard. I think that with the offensive line going through the turnover that they have, his ability to play well at center and do the things that they need him to do is going to be huge. And getting the guys around him to play up to his standard is going to play a big role in determining how explosive this offense can be once again. We flip over to the defensive side of the football, and DeJordan Strong is another all Sun Belt type talent. And you look at what he's done, his stats aren't anything crazy. 25 tackles, 7 passes defended, no interceptions, but this is a guy who can be that shutdown corner for this defense. And when you look at some of the offenses that they face, that's important. I think that that's going to be a huge role for this defense, is to being able to shut teams down. They do have some talent returning, but for the most part, a lot of the veterans are gone, like I mentioned before. And a guy like DeJordan Strong is going to play a huge role in both a leadership perspective, but also being able to shut people down once again. Coastal Carolina's rushing attack is going to be lethal because they have Brayden Bennett, because they have Greyson McCaleb, but they also have Rhys White. He averaged 7.2 yards per carry. You have 2 running backs that average over 7 yards per carry last year. That is an explosive group, and that is a group that's going to make a lot of defensive coordinators lose sleep at night. And, you look at that combination of him and Bennett, there aren't many that have a better combination in the backfield, and especially when you put in 2 guys. There might be teams that have one guy that's better, but when you look at the fact that they have 2 guys that are doing this kind of thing, they're putting up these kind of numbers. That is something special, and I think that's something that's going to be exciting for Coastal Carolina while they figure out their passing game. Speaking of the passing game, Sam Pinkney comes in from Georgia State, 2 years removed from an 800-yard season. Again, Coastal Carolina loses anybody that had 10 catches or more. This is a group that's really lacking in terms of production in the pass catcher area. And I think that Sam Pinkney's arrival is kind of like a band-aid. And from there, it just has to be guys that are going to step up and find a way to help Pinkney out because he's a proven commodity. And I think they just need guys behind him. While the defensive line does lose a couple people that are key pieces, Gerald Clark is back. And again, one of those guys that his numbers 33 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. Not exactly like a producer, but a lot of times when you're looking at defensive tackles, nose guards, those guys inside aren't going to have the best numbers unless they're absolutely like one of the most dominant players that we've ever seen. And I think that he's going to be solid. He's going to be one of those guys that he's really going to do more work freeing up things for everybody else. And that's not going to show up in a box score, but it's definitely important. We talked about Jordan Strong, but Lance Boykin I think he has the talent to also be an all-conference selection. He's a big corner that can get physical with players, get physical with receivers. Had 4 passes defended and 3 interceptions last year. This is a guy who knows what he's doing around the football. And I think that when you're looking at what this defense needs, I think at every level, they have some sort of talent that can be reliable, can be playing at a high level. It just comes down to whether or not they have the depth. And guys like Boykin and Strong are playing big roles, like I've said. It's kind of on repeat here. They need depth. They have the talent at the top. It's just a matter of who's behind them. Offensive tackle Antoine Loper is the last one here. Again, this offense goes as far as the offensive line will take them. They have the skill positions. Obviously, the passing attack has questions, but the fact that they have 2 guys in Lampkin and Loper returning is huge. I think that you're going to see an offensive line that has some things to figure out, whether or not Lampkin can play center, whether or not he's playing guard. Loper is going to be the steady force on the outside, on the edges, and that's something that this offense definitely needs, and they're going to be excited to see the results when they see how well he can play.